Greetings, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the WandCowCast podcast. I'm your host, Mad Matt WandCow, and I've got two people with me today. The first is my sister.
Hi, everyone.
Jerusha here, and then I have my friend Aaron.
Howdy.
And he's here with us today, too. Aaron, I believe, has the potential to have a good radio voice. And I thought podcasts would be a thing that he could get behind and do a thing with. So, we're doing a thing. And, yeah. So, Aaron, tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, I'm crazy. That would be the first thing you want to know.
Yeah.
I'm really into writing. Yeah, that's something I do quite a bit. Not as much with high school going on. I'm in high school. That'd be the other thing.
For how much longer?
Just a few months. Just a few months and I'm getting out of here. So, and then I'll be...
Like, getting out of here, is that out of state or just out of high school?
Well, out of high school, I'm going to work in the oil field.
Okay.
And working for...
You sounded confident with that.
Yeah, and, well, I'm already working there. I just, got to start full-time and making the real money when overtime starts happening. So,
okay.
That's what I'm looking for. And then I will put in my papers to go on a mission for my church.
Cool. Cool. Missions are cool things. So, Drusha, do you have plans for the future at all?
Yes.
Okay. Good. I'm glad.
They're not very planful plans.
Okay. Well,
They're kind of just like, one day this will happen.
Drusha, do you have vague intentions for the future?
Why, yes. Yes, I do.
What are some of your vague intentions?
Family. I want a fun family.
Like buy your own or rent one on holidays or...
That's the confusing part is, how do you know where families come from? I just don't know where to find that out. Nah, I just...
Well, Drusha.
The answer is the internet.
Got it. I knew it.
Probably shouldn't search that on the internet.
We're just like the Matrix. I knew it.
Okay.
Actually, I bet How to Make a Family probably comes up with cleaner results than How to Make a Baby.
I would hope. Well, yeah, that would. Yeah.
It's just like, one of the things that I pride myself in is being able to find things on the internet.
Yeah.
And a lot of how to find things on the internet, it comes from knowing the type of words to use and not to use. For example, do I have any good examples? I don't have a good example off the top of my head.
Yeah,
but there's some words that you use, some words that you don't use. The computer doesn't. You can't just keep talking to a computer and adding more search terms and have it come up with what you want to find. You have to take your if you're using more than 4 words and it's not a direct quote from something, you're doing it wrong. But you take those 4 words and you change them up. You use alternate words. Sometimes changing the order doesn't have too much, but sometimes it does. And normally I'm pretty good about being able to find things that I'm looking for. So, yeah. On to our interview questions. There should be an 11th question, but I don't know what it is. I'm going to have to go and do the research, because apparently I didn't write it down. Which is sad, because I knew I had it written down earlier. I had 10 questions in the first episode, and then we added one in the second. And now here in the third episode, I have 9 of the 10 questions from the first episode, and the one from the second.
Okay.
Making 10. So, I don't know what that other one is. We might have to cover that again sometime. But, hopping right in, what are you watching?
For shows I'm watching right now, or...
Yeah, watch this. Drusha, what are you watching?
Right now I am watching House, that TV show about doctors. Really addicting and really fun. Like it.
Aaron, what are you watching?
Dirty Jobs is what I've been watching mostly right now. That's because my little brother watches it, though.
Uh-huh.
I haven't really been into TV since high school happened.
Well, it doesn't have to be TV. It can be YouTube. It can be plays.
Okay, yeah, so I just read Empire by Orson Scott Card.
Yeah, we'll get to books in a minute.
Oh, well, okay. Shut down.
Are you watching anything?
Well, shoot, no. Nothing
in particular?
Nothing.
Okay, moving on to question 3. What are you reading?
I just finished Empire. My horse and
Empire? I've got that book right there.
Oh, is
There's
it?
another one in that shelf right there.
Wow. That's...
I thought it was mediocre.
I like the point he was trying to make.
I liked the book. Spoiler alert for people who are doing it. It's been a while since I read it, but I liked the book right up until they killed the character that I liked.
Yeah,
and then it wasn't entirely. They didn't wreak vengeance on it or anything. Stuff
you
was
just dropped it.
It just the book ended, and
No,
you're like,
no
what?
funeral. Well,
It was-
it was. He was going in to get information to get himself clean, and his secretary that he trusted implicitly shoots him in the eyeball with a .22 while he's holding a box of files, and so he just explicit. I know. I'm sorry. But he drops the thing and he just dies, and he's like, the other character's like, no chance of him living, and then he gets chased out of there by gunmen, and then when you come back to it, there's no funeral. It's a month later, skips everything. It's just, yeah, he's dead. We've moved on. And, the entire first, you love this character.
Oh yeah, no, he's brilliant.
Yeah,
The entire book is spent making you entirely believe in this character, which is an interesting thing because my feelings for it, I don't know, I might have to try reading it again. But recently it's been made aware to me that I don't believe in death.
Oh, well.
Because it's name a heroic character who doesn't come back from the dead. And
Casper.
your answer, Casper came back from the dead in one of the movies.
Okay, how about...
As much as people don't believe that movie's
how
canon,
about in the Dresden
the
Files?
live-action Casper movie
How-
has him coming back from the dead as the main plot.
How about in the Dresden Files, the ghost guy, does he ever come back?
The ghost guy? The guy wasn't ever technically alive.
There you go. I rest my non-restable case.
It's people, they kill Dumbledore, for example.
Yeah.
And, then Dumbledore has a 30-minute conversation with Harry after he was dead.
Yeah, I know.
Harry
And
was
it's
dead.
what?
Harry was
What's
dead
up with
in that
this?
scene.
Yeah, Harry died and he saw him in heaven.
Yeah,
Whatever
yeah.
heavenish thing.
Whatever.
No.
I don't believe in death of characters anymore. And when I'm playing D&D, I still don't believe in death of characters.
Yeah.
And it makes it really hard to try and kill characters off. And it just, I have a friend who, I guess, isn't cynical about the thing.
Mm-hmm.
She can watch Doctor Who and feel that there is a question that the characters are going to survive. And I can't do that anymore. I'm able to look, I'm able to look pretty well and go, okay, those characters they introduced right now, 90% of them are red shirts. And it's not the fact that I know they're going to die, it's the fact that I don't care about them.
Yeah.
Any character that they make me care about, I know isn't going to die. And the characters that do die are characters like Rory,
Yep.
who undies.
Yeah.
Characters like Jack, who undies. It's...
Clara.
Clara's weird, but she undies. The Master doesn't die. The Daleks don't die.
No matter how many
You
times
can't
he
end the
utterly
Cybermen.
obliterates them.
And it's death isn't real in fiction anymore. And I don't know how to fix this.
Well, I told you how I like to write.
Mhm.
We Matt and I, we used to do a writing group together. It's back in the day.
We might talk about that in the future, because there are things that I would like to do. And I don't see myself as a writer anymore.
Yeah.
I've moved on to, I want to be a teller of stories.
Well,
And that's different than writing. And
I agree with that.
it's much more broad. And there's things that I learn trying to do webcomics, or trying to run D&D games, or trying to write stories. All of them are work together.
Yeah.
And I think I can learn from all these different things. I might try listening to Writing Excuses. Is a really good
I love
podcast.
them so much.
And I was listening to them a bit these last 2 nights. And I might start them from the beginning and write down notes of writing excuses as applied to running D&D. And see what comes up from that.
That could be intriguing.
And I'm really, really interested in it because, I think there's a lot of useful things that they can pull from that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also kind of want to try and take some of my D&D books, like The Lazy DM, for example, and see what I can use to turn that into writing. because one of the interesting things between writing and running a game is that, the characters can supply things from their own imagination in my game than they can when they're on the page.
Mhm.
And dialogue can occasionally flow naturally, and you would have to run a campaign through a massive scrub to make it feel like make the characters feel consistent and make them, make everything work according to your world. But it's doable.
Yeah.
So.
But that's actually that's a whole new level. I couldn't do that. Like you're DMing, like when you come up with stuff on the spot, I can't. That's such a high level of creative writing, or as I would see creative writing, that adventure writing. I can't do that. I have to. I've been finding with what I've been working on right now that I have to have an entire chapter thought out in my head before I can write it. And so what you do, I can't do. That's really cool.
With that, there's a thing where when you're in a group of people and you're trying to get them to do a story, they're going to add things, so you take what they've added and you write that into your story.
Like I said, I can't do it.
One of the best games that I've ran, I went into that night knowing that I wanted to throw a party.
Yeah.
Knowing that I wanted to have a character pull a prank. Excuse the cough.
It's
there
excused.
We go. And that day at work, when I had been pondering it a little bit, I came up with the phrase, Demon Giraffe Pinata. And with those 3 pieces of information, I ran probably the best game I've ever run. And, yeah, because that was all I needed to seed enough. Like, the first 2 got me to the final fight. And, it wasn't it was a one-night thing, maybe 3 hours of story tops. But, one of the things that made that amazing is that, people had taken, like, I've been building this city that I've just been using because, hey, it's always great when you've got common ground where people can know, oh, let's go over and talk to this guy. He'll know what's going on. And so people were starting to use previous history of the city that I had used in previous campaigns to help influence their actions. And, they spent like a half hour, like outside of, half hour of meta time sitting around talking about whether, how good of an idea it was to break into like this Lord General's office or whatever. And they just like kept talking, and I kept looking at my watch and decided at 8:15 the plot's moving on with or without them. And when they hadn't come up with anything, suddenly a horse started galloping past, and then there was an epic horse ride through the city, and it was just a lot of fun. And I went in there with no preparation, like because so much of what I wanted to do with it, like a lot of D&D is reacting to people. And your brother's been in my group for probably a year and a half.
Yeah,
Jordan. Jordan's
right.
been about a year and a half, and like his growth at being able to improv has been incredible, because it used to be that if you stumped him with something and he didn't know what to say, he would freeze. And he would just like look at you deer in the headlights, and he would be stuck for like 5 or 10 minutes of just like hoping that you would ask somebody else the question. And now
He's at the party.
What?
He was party face for a day.
Yeah, he was party face for the day. We had him, he was being the inquisitive, going through all the files. We have, taken a guy who would freeze when something new, and now he's being able to move on past that. And it's really fascinating, the type of things that you can do with it.
You throw it in, it works.
Drusha, what are you reading?
Me? Right now I'm reading an online comic called Flow, and it is really, really fascinating. How to explain it, though?
Okay, ready? You have 6 words to interest me in reading it. If there's no words, it's not interesting.
Hold on.
False! Very false! On Cinefix, and it used to be on Stanley's World of Heroes, they have a parody. It's a normally Marvel Universe parody of
My
phone.
alarm. Yeah.
Just an alarm? Okay.
Yeah.
They have this parody of the Marvel Universe called Superhero Bad Days. And sometimes it's DC or whatever, but the only spoken line of dialogue is Stan Lee's cameo in each one of these.
It's fun.
And he gets like 2 sentences and that's it. And they have to tell a parody story of someone having a really bad day with only those 2 sentences. So doing things without dialogue or, without using words is doable. Not necessarily in this instance, but words don't necessarily make something exciting. Can you come up with anything?
I can try.
Okay.
1 wish granted. He changes time.
Ooh. It does actually intrigue me. Send me a link. I'll put it in the notes down below.
I did it! Woo!
And maybe I'll check it out. I don't know. I have a lot of webcomics going at me.
It's Korean.
Korean?
So they do this weird, panel thing where, the really cool things are cool, but then you have, a page where there's only one little box at the top and one little box at the bottom with a cool effect in the middle.
Interesting.
It's fascinating, but,
Yeah, I might have to check it out from a mechanics standpoint.
Really good artwork, though.
That's good.
Beautiful stuff.
Okay.
Dragons look amazing.
Yeah. So, Aaron, what are you playing?
Playing?
Mm-hmm.
I'm again lost. Playing sports or
You say words as if I was intending to have a specific answer.
Oh well.
These are not these are not yes/no questions. These aren't even multiple choice. These are tangential essay questions where I'm like, hey, what of this new topic of conversation? And where you're like, wow, and this new topic of conversation, I've actually been secondary topic of conversation. And I'm like, oh, really? Well, that brings to mind the third topic of conversation. And therefore, hey, we're off track. Way to answer the first topic of conversation. On to second question.
I think we should name this podcast Matt's Dissertation on Conversation.
It already has the word WandCow, and that's enough for me.
Okay, I play piano. I'm not playing sports. I'm not playing video games. I'm really boring.
You play guitar, don't you?
I do play guitar.
Have you been learning any cool songs with that?
There Must Be a God by Spencer Myers, which is a missionary from the Arizona Tempe mission.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I had to download the movie and then obsessively watch it to figure out his.
Which movie is it from?
It's on Facebook. Yeah, he posted it on Facebook.
Just a video clip of him?
Yeah, and I used Google Chrome to forcefully download the video and then watched it. It's sad because I know all the different things he does with his face by now because I've watched it so many times trying to figure out how to do the fingers, and I can't.
Is he doing some weird fingering, or just having trouble figuring out the chords?
They overlap. There's a lot of chords that are just really tight up near the fretboard, which is about off the screen. And so it's really hard to interpret what he's doing. So they're not familiar at all.
I've actually been. Oh, my phone's way over there. I did dabble with guitar once upon a time, and I've been writing up a list of songs I want to know how to play on guitar, and I'm up to 10 of them now, and they're all really, really good songs that I would love to be able to play. So, being able to do that type of thing, I think is fairly impressive. So question number 4. What are you listening to? I know you've been doing that one song over and over again, but anything besides that?
I found Andy Grammer as an artist. Do you guys, any of you know Andy Grammer? The Pocket Ladies, Fine by Me.
I don't believe so.
Can we play music on this podcast thing? Would we have to? I guess we'd probably just put in the list.
Toss me a link to a song, and we'll check it out later.
Okay, I'll do that. But that's really cool. I've actually gotten to a habit of spending probably $20-$30 in music every paycheck, which is getting expensive.
Yeah.
Can you hear my pain? It's obvious.
I can understand it.
There's a Benton Paul, like a guy. He's got an EP. He's got some actually really good songs in it. Missy Higgins, I've been looking at her One Republic, has a song called Preacher, which is really kind of out of the blue and different, and I really like it. And then...
Do you listen to that Christian rock?
I
Implying that it, yes, technically could be counted as music.
no. Like I used to listen to it back in the day, but almost like the idea, maybe I'm just fanatical, but like the idea of mixing rock and Jesus, it just kind of seems
Like putting him in jeans.
yeah, like putting like not sacred. And I mean, yes, it's a good introduction, and a lot of people, it's really really great for them.
See, my problem with Christian rock is that most of the lyrics make me want to vomit. And it's like, this is not a good song. You know, it's about a good topic, but so very rarely is like these Christian rock groups, like so,
Actually writing good songs.
they're not good songs. And, I don't know what it is. I've definitely heard, some good songs that were, Christian based, uplifting. I've heard uplifting good songs.
Yeah.
It's just that bands who seem to try and dedicate themselves entirely to uplifting good songs seem to be really, really horrible songwriters. And
yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, there's definitely, like, Fernando Ortega, if anyone knows that, I like that guy. I feel I listen to him, but and then there's lists. I've got my iPad up looking at them, but I've got lists of
which is cheating, by the way.
It is cheating. Okay. I'll
Jenny
cease and
Phillips
desist.
is a really good one. Not
Yeah.
rock, but amazing.
Like, she does brilliant violin, but I agree with you there that there's lots of it where it's just like, please put some effort into it. This isn't your praise songs at church. Those are good, but put some thought into it. Make me listen to your song as someone who's not a Christian and wonder and think about it and want to do something different with my life instead of just.
If your song had nothing to do about Christianity, would people still be listening to your music?
Yeah.
That's the question right there. And if the answer is no, then
that's your answer.
Fix it.
Yeah. And then write music that honestly.
It's because I've read Christian fiction.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is really horrible because one of the book series I used to really like it, but once I learned what real fiction is, Tennis Shoes Among the Nephites, I can't stand anymore because it's really poorly written stuff, and the only reason it's so ubiquitous among Mormon households is because it's Book of Mormon stuff.
Yeah, it's you've got a fan base.
Yeah, you have a dedicated fan base who look at the book and they think, oh, I don't have, I'm not stretching my standards to read it.
Yeah.
I don't have to check that for I don't have to check it for content.
My kids.
But when you're not checking it for content, you're not checking it for quality. There, I said it.
Well, absolutely.
I said it.
Well, and that's. I guess that goes back to my writing. I like writing stories that inspire me. Something that I write it and I go back and read it a month later and go, I wrote that? Really? I'm surprised. That's it sounds good, and if it's not good in a month, I throw it out. But I'm Christian. I believe in that stuff, and so I put it in kind of hidden ways, in the way they act, in the way my characters do things, the way they deal with problems. I want to show people characters that have problems and they overcome it by doing something that's right, making a better decision, weighing decisions. I want to show people that side of Christianity. I think people see Christianity as just a bunch of weirdies, praise Jesus, and it's more than that. Jesus Christ is a lifestyle, and it's decisions you make. And I write that into awesome stories about dragons and elves, and epic battles with swords. And
there's only one flaw I see with that.
Yeah.
And it's that, if, as, I do see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But as a writer, I know, thinking about the stuff that I've written,
mm-hmm.
I don't know if I've ever written a character that was overtly Christian.
Yeah.
I've written good characters, characters who are good, Not the fact, not, as a moral standpoint, not as a quality standpoint. And, they act in certain ways. And once I have a character, I have them act as they would act.
Oh, yeah.
Which, due to my natural inclinations, does tend to be, tend towards good. But, I've never really, I'm not going to force any moral or any thought across my characters.
Absolutely. I was trying to write a prologue to my current story that I'm working on, and it wasn't happening. I was trying to tell a story, and it wasn't my characters reacting. And so I took it, I threw it away, and I went back with just a conversation. And from there I got a story, I got emotion, and my philosophy is to let my character write the story. And if that is not what's happening, my book is not any good, because we like characters when we read books. I mean, yeah, another war scene like Lord of the Rings would be great, but if we didn't love Gimli and Legolas, we wouldn't love Lord of the Rings. And so that's my goal, is to write characters and have the story follow them. And if the story goes nothing like what I intended it to, and it ends up being awful, then I made bad characters, and I wrote bad characters for making an entertaining piece.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my philosophy. If I end up spending time writing crap, then, well, next time hopefully I'll make better characters. And so, like, when I talk about that, I mean, yeah, my power as an author, when I'm writing like this, is to know the character, but then to influence the story, I have to give them situations. And I want to give them situations that force them to explore who they are as people, good or bad.
It's really interesting. Thinking about that from the DM perspective,
yeah,
the DM school of writing is different, because unlike you as a writer,
yeah,
I don't write the main characters. And that is a huge difference, is that you hear discovery writers talking about how, their characters tell them the story. But, for me, that's like what literally happens.
Yeah.
Is, I could, and one of the things that makes DMing really interesting for me is I don't try and tell a story, I try and ask a question. A question I tried to ask is, what happens when the heroes stick the bad guy and he turns back into a little 10-year-old kid that's dead on their sword now? How do the heroes react to that? And I set up a campaign where that's what happened. And then I had to justify when the characters started asking questions. I had to build a story around that. But sometimes, from the DM perspective, just because the characters are good doesn't mean that the plot is good for those characters.
Absolutely.
And as a DM and a player, I've played characters that went into a campaign where, they shouldn't have been there.
Mm-hmm.
There would have been other characters that I could have played. Maybe it was an all combat campaign, and I was a skill based, role play type character, or there wasn't any combat and I was playing a combat based character when I really needed a skill monkey or a ritual caster, or just a character of another type that would have been useful in that thing. And I'm really having to think a lot more about this DM writer style, because when you're talking about prologue, as a DM, if I start telling them the backstory of the world, I've got maybe 8 sentences before they stop caring and pull out their phones and start playing games. And that's all the world building I can do with them before my audience falls asleep, which is bad, because then my characters fall asleep. And when your characters don't care about the world they're in, then your audience shouldn't care, and then you shouldn't have a prologue. And, it's, you hear the adage, start as close to the action as possible.
Yeah.
As a DM writer, I would extend it to start close to the action that matters as possible. Because, recently, on Thursday, we had combat that was there for combat's sake.
Yeah.
And it was not a fight that our characters could win. And, it brought up a lot of the philosophy of gaming, where if it's a fight where the characters can't lose, then the DM should save everybody time and say, you come across small pockets of resistance, but you're able to quickly dispatch them. And, take a half hour of combat and squeeze it down to one sentence of explanation, and then you're done with that. And,
story
you know,
goes on.
like, in D&D, the only time you really ought to be rolling the dice is when the outcome is in question.
Absolutely.
When, you know, you have a chance of something succeeding or a chance of something failing, that's the only time it matters. And I will also extend that to combat or action scenes. When that action scene has a chance of succeeding or a chance of failing, that's when we need that action scene. But if Aragorn is going to be able to track down the goblins wherever they run, then we don't need to watch him tracking goblins, except for maybe as a transitional piece. Except, what we need is Aragorn arriving at the goblins' camp, where the story actually starts. And that's, I think, a big piece of it. Hey, let's move on. What are you eating?
Is that a question?
That is a question.
That's an answer? No. Lunch food. School lunch food.
School lunches? What's your favorite school lunch?
I would have to say Alfredo, chicken Alfredo.
Ooh, you guys have better school lunches than when I was a kid.
Yeah, I can't complain. Simple as that.
Cool. Okay, now we get into like the fun questions. You ready?
Oh, no, I'm not a fun person, so.
Yeah, you are. Ready? Question number 10.
I eat.
We're doing things out of order, by the way.
Okay.
why,
10,
time is an illusion. Lunchtime
15.
doubly so. Who is your favorite hero?
Of all time.
Not necessarily.
Well,
favorite is a horrible, horrible thing.
It is, because it's not really certain either.
What hero have you been thinking about a lot? What hero do you admire? What hero, what hero do you want to talk about?
My character in my story.
That's fine.
Well, the thing is, he's a wimp. I'm writing him as, the story I'm writing was literally, I realized that I had no skill in transitioning a character, throughout a story. I realized that my character was going to be static the whole way through, no matter how round I made him, he's going to be very static. And so I started writing the story with a character that was a wimp, and scared and afraid all the time, and so that's my story, is trying to turn him around, turn him into something, and then see where that goes. And so I've been thinking about that a lot, but I haven't been thinking about him. I've been thinking about the first started as a writing prompt, now it's like turning into a novel, and I've been thinking about the other characters. So, yeah.
Have you listened to the writing? Have you listened to writing excuses recently, like in season 9?
No,
season 9. One of the episodes I listened to the last night or the night before talks about these slider bars, 3 prongs of character development, I think is the episode title.
I should look it up.
And that one I think will help a lot. And then also, have you read the Belgariad? David Eddings' Pawn of the Prophecy?
I never read the last one. I read the first 4. Where they are up in that island, castle, kingdom, whatever, and that's where I left off. I guess I never. You actually gave me that series. I never got.
One of the things reading David Eddings' musing on that thing is he had some thoughts about how you tell people about a world, and one of those is that he had a character. One of the ways that you can do that is have a character who has no clue what's going on. And then more experienced characters can explain things to him and then to the reader at the same time.
So you never want to, you don't want a big long chapter saying, this world has this history and this such and such.
Well, he did that anyway. That's what his prologue was. But he took a character who did start out as kind of a wimpy character, and as it went on, I never really caught the transitions, but that character grew and developed and became, super powerful towards the end. And not just, powerful, but way confident in its abilities. And that worked really well. So that might be another book series that you might want to try and look at there.
Reading to write, that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. No, you should, if you're trying to write,
you
should never stop reading until you're getting paid well enough to not, to be working on books.
Yep.
So,
But I'm not. So I should be
not
ready.
yet.
No.
Maybe be so fortunate. The next question, number 9. Who's your favorite villain?
Oh, someone that actually wins.
A villain that wins?
Just a villain that wins. I
What do you mean by that? Like, I part of the villain's arc is that he can't necessarily win in the end. He has to for humans to feel closure. He has to have gotten his just rewards at some point.
Well, and that's the thing is it goes back to what you talked about with not believing in death.
Okay.
In fictional death, I've gotten to the point where I'm reading books where my little brother, my little sister loved it, thought it was amazing. I'm sitting there going, please end, you stupid piece of fiction, because I know that none of this action is gonna result in anything that I care about, and none of this trauma is gonna result in anything but a happy ending. And so, when you've gotten to my point, where reading becomes boring because you're like, same, farm boy story. And so I like when villains win because it actually lets suspense and it lets the value of storytelling, the value in it.
Because you don't see it coming.
Yeah. And it's valuable, I think, to, even if it's only in book 1 that it happens, because then you sit there going and making the faces while you wait for book 2. And there's value.
I will say there is a huge difference in, consuming a fictional media when it's already out versus when you're waiting for the next episode.
Mm-hmm.
When you're able to speculate with people, not exactly on how the episode will end, but on, what all these little pieces mean when you're looking at the overwhelming plot. And that does make a difference. Mm-hmm. And sadly, I've got absolutely nothing going, ongoing media right now, because the 2 TV shows that I was watching, both of them I decided, meh, and I'll catch them later.
Yep. And
one of those, because both of them are superhero shows.
Yeah.
And superhero is my geekdom. I know, I am the most versed of all my friends in superheroes, and I know, a lot of stuff. And both of the big running superhero shows right now, Arrow and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., turned me off, and it was annoying. And so now I'm not watching them, and I'll catch them. I'll buy them on DVD when they come out, and I'll binge watch them then.
Yep.
Because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I had a 50-50 chance as to whether the episode was going to be frickin' amazing or frickin' crap.
Mm-hmm.
And when I rolled 2 crap episodes in a row, I'm like, nope, I'll catch it on DVD.
Yep.
And Arrow, the main characters were making the same stupid choices and mistakes that they were making the first season. And it's a great show, but I'm sick of
the same story.
The same, I was sick of the characters being stupid. It's, a world where, hey, if this superhero had told 6 people his identity, the world would not have been, the city would not have been destroyed. His girlfriend and his best friend probably wouldn't have stayed, would have stayed together, or whatever. All of the drama that happened wouldn't have happened if people had been honest to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the final episode, I was really hoping they'd kill the girlfriend. And instead they killed his best friend, who was the girlfriend's competitor. Or the girlfriend's, other love interest. Which meant in the second season, the off again, on again, duality, stupid relationship with the girlfriend was going to continue. And that was stupid.
Oh, I think you're seeing in those what happens when you don't have good writers. Honestly,
I do think it's a writer thing. There was one episode where, there was Bruce Wayne style drama of running the company or whatever, and some politician is talking about how the superhero isn't doing a good job when people are stealing medicine from this hospital.
Yeah.
And the superhero's like, what? what's going on? And, like, for 2 weeks, it's been the only news article that's been running that people have been doing hit and runs on these medicine transport vehicles. And the superhero didn't know for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And this never came up in conversation with people for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And his, like, 2 little helpers didn't tell him for 2 weeks. And it's like, this is stupid. This is a setup. And, yeah, no. And it's like, you can't rely on stupid setup for your story.
A counterexample. I like it when...
Where you can rely on stupid setup for your story?
Well, no. Of good writing, quite honestly. Do you know... have you read the Fablehaven series?
I have been pointed at Fablehaven a time or two.
I will
Read half
convince...
of it.
I will convince you now. It's one of those stories where...
6 words, go. I may not be consistent podcast to podcast, but in the same podcast, I should be consistent.
Great. That doesn't count.
I know. Should great restraint. In not going, that was 1. It would actually be that was 4, because that didn't count. It would be another 3 words. But you're still at 0 words.
No pressure.
Characters grow into harder stories.
Okay.
Vague.
Awesomely. That's 6. I don't. Maybe that's not so convincing, but it's
Your first 5 words had bought you more conversation. Your last word counteracted that more conversation from the 5 words.
Yeah. Well, it's the thing is, the characters don't make the same mistakes. They look back at what they did before, and because I think what's happening there is they're trying to tell the same story, different setting, different characters, different nemesis, over and over again. Because they're trying to sell that same old ice cream, and with Brandon Mole, when he writes, it's they get through the first challenge that they can barely get through. When the second challenge starts, they realize they gotta buck up and deal with it, and even though it's 10 times harder, and they have to rely on more people, and they have got to deal with it better, and that, I guess that's what I like about it, is it gets the story gets more difficult, and the characters have to follow along with it.
One of my favorite TV shows of all time is Digimon.
Mm-hmm.
I freaking love Digimon. And in the first season of Digimon, which confuses people because there was like 2 different parts of it or whatever, and it was really long because it was 52 episodes because it was an anime, and Americans aren't used to 52 episode TV shows. But Digimon season 1 was really, really good at that. Because first of all, how the mechanics of Digivolution work, you get stronger, and then you use up all your energy, and you regress, and then when you get stronger again, you're able to, save more energy, you're able to keep progressing forward. Mm-hmm. So just like the mechanics of the world work towards that. And as, in that first season, as they were fighting, they would they would get, like, separated or whatever, they would get beaten down, and all of them would have to, like, get back together, and fix all their little personal problems, and then together they were able to succeed. And once they beat that guy, that like unlocked a new area, and they went into there, and they found an even worse villain. And throughout the entire series, that's what it was like. You just, the first season, you just kept finding stronger and stronger and stronger villains. And you would look back and you would be like, wow, in the past, the last time we beat this guy in the previous form, it took all of our effort, but we did it. We should be able to beat him in this form. And, that's true, but it'll take a lot more effort. And that escalation felt right. In Digimon Season 4, which a lot of people don't know existed because it did, and it was really horrible, the heroes didn't have that. Mm-hmm. The heroes were losers the entire way through. They pretty much never won a battle. As, like, against a big bad evil guy, it was always like somebody else stepping in and taking, like, taking the win or something like that. And like the entire way through, the heroes never prospered. And it was really, really, really annoying. And it's my least favorite season of Digimon out of like 7.
Yeah. I've just thought of it because this really new idea.
Season where some guy has to punch Digimon to have his Digimon partner evolve. That's like solidly 4. But it was good.
That was an interesting one.
That's actually my favorite episode of Digimon is from season 5, where some guy is falling out of a tree, having an introspective moment for the entire thing.
Well, he's falling?
Yeah, they just climbed, like, Yggdrasil or whatever to, like, confront the big bad evil guy, and the big bad evil guy is up there, and he's like, pathetic, smacks him out of the tree. And, the main character is, like, falling down the tree, and, he's just, like, having this introspective moment because I guess the big bad guy was his dad or something.
Huh.
And while that was going on, he's, like, passing all of the friends who got left behind holding, like, the enemy forces at bay while they've been running to the throne room. And everyone's, like, looking down and, like, suddenly getting busy and fighting him. And he's just, like, falling down, and at the very end, his introspective moment has reached his climax, and he's fully recommitted himself, except now he's about to hit the ground. And, like, the first friend that got, like, that stayed behind to help everyone else succeed, looks up and sees him, like, glowing with this energy of confidence or whatever. And so he has his Digimon partner attack the falling guy with, like, his strongest thing. And so the guy, like, the Digimon pulls out, like, a large bazooka or whatever. Bazookas. And, it, like, hits the guy, and he, like, instead of, like, flying off or whatever, he, like, takes it, and he, like, focuses and, like, kicks off against the bazooka and starts flying up into the air. And then the way he goes back up the tree, and all these people who had been along the way to help him get there in the first place are now, like, perfectly spaced along the tree to help, like, rocket him up forward. And finally, like, as the episode's ending, he flies back through the hole in the wall of the throne room and punches the Digimon Emperor, or whatever exactly it was, just punches him solidly in the face. And it is the best victory moment, because the whole episode, you're just, like, kind of, yeah, whatever. But once it hits that, like, that point,
In his face.
you feel that surge of the hero is winning now. I don't know how to describe it. You feel sympathetic victory just surging through as you're watching this episode, and they've got cool music playing in the background, and he's flying. Oh, it's like the best episode of Digimon ever.
We should link that.
I should find it somewhere.
Well, and that's what led me to, because what I've been doing previously is creating suspense, was making you love a character and then killing that character, and in such a way that you're like, he's gone, and I'm sorry, I'm not bringing him back, and so that way, as the other character's going through, and I feel like it gives me the opportunity to create that suspense, because even if you're not suspenseful for the main character, you've got all the side characters that I'm doing my best to make you like, and then they could die. And so I'm trying to create that suspense as they're all trying to work together, because if they die, the main character gets out. But that was what I was doing before. With what we was talking about, the idea being that you, as if you're progressing them to bigger and bigger challenges, you make it so they face something that they barely defeat. And then you face them against something bigger, and the whole time you're like, they just barely did that. How in the world are they going to fix this problem? And so that's another way you could actually create that same suspense, is make the character actually wonder from previous experience if they can do it.
There was this time running a D&D game, I had put up rumors that the characters had heard about that this castle was haunted. And they, like, came into it, and I don't remember exactly everything that happened, but I knew why it was haunted was that there was, like, this large lizard that would, like, occasionally scrape around at night or something.
Okay.
And so they walk into the throne room, and there's, like, some of the small bad guys they've been fighting here in the throne room, and they, like, take one look at the heroes, and they push the throne off of this dais, and then, like, run away. And the heroes were like, what the heck was that? And then, like, a lizard climbs out of, like, this trapdoor underneath the dais and starts attacking the party. And the party is able to defeat it easily. And it, like, it, like, falls back into the hole, because they, like, used all their powerful stuff. 2 rounds, it was dead. And then they, like, go and they, like, peer down into the hole.
Yeah.
And because I didn't want them to, like, wonder where it was coming from, I didn't want them to do anything like that. I just wanted them to, like, be done with it and move on. And so, guess what I put in the hole?
Many of them.
Yeah, like 9 more.
I
And they
remember that.
look down, they shine their light spell down, and they're like, oh, hey, you hold this trapdoor here, we're gonna move the throne back. And they re-propped open the trapdoor and they left. And yeah, that's how that was supposed to work, and it did. So, here we go on to the harder questions.
Oh.
By that I mean that they're more physically defined and less soft answered.
Okay.
What is your favorite use of time travel? Specifically from a story, you know, when they use a form of time travel.
Goodness, I can only think of Doctor Who and the Nephite series. Those are the only 2 things that come to mind.
Okay.
But I like in Doctor Who how they overlap it all and how it seems to all work together. Personally, I'm not a believer in using that, but
What exactly do you mean? Because in Doctor Who, there's like 9 or 10 different uses of time travel, sometimes 2 or 3 in an episode.
yeah, and it gets, for me, I like writing stories chronologically. I've never really gotten into, so for me writing it, but I do see the brilliance in it. The people who write Doctor Who have so much fun, and I have respect for them for that. Even though they can't manage to kill off a character and make the show suspenseful again. But I guess Doctor Who would be my example.
Okay. In Doctor Who, like, okay, I repeat what I said, that there are like 10 different types of uses of time travel in Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Can you name a specific, like, way that they use time travel?
Oh, I've never watched it to storytell out of it. Shoot,
You should. It does things really well sometimes.
Your difficult questions are proving to be difficult. I guess I should have expected. I don't know. I haven't paid attention.
Okay, I'll give you an example. This will help.
Okay.
One of my favorite uses of time travel, like I've worked on like a list of these things.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorites, I'll pick one not from Doctor Who to save you just a little bit of effort. I really, really like how in Back to the Future.
Oh, yes.
Back to the Future, the first one, you know, there's a lot of it in that episode. But when Marty McFly goes back into the past, and he's talking to Doc Brown, and he's able to entirely confirm to the fact that, you know, confirm to Doc Brown that time travel works by being there.
Yeah.
And, like, the concept of time travel is possible because the concept of time travel was possible. And that, like the way that they could have taken the paradox of I haven't invented it yet, that doesn't matter because Doc Brown has thought of it. And he knows that it's going to happen. And just the fact that, you know, the paradox doesn't break everything when he's doing that. That's one of my favorite uses of time travel.
Oh,
there's like 5 or 6 different ways they use time travel in that movie.
When you like make something out of nothing, essentially, like the fact that you time traveled created the idea that allowed you to time travel.
Yeah.
Well,
he was actually hanging a clock over his bathtub, but but yeah, the idea solidifying because he had, you know, that he had the idea.
I think that's brilliant if you can pull it off, but I can't. Is I haven't tried, so I guess that makes it a little bit different. My favorite example, how do I do it?
What's your favorite episode of Doctor Who?
Oh, the first one I ever watched, which would be the one where Matt Tennant Geronimo's into the dying sun. Yeah, because he. Okay,
that would have been, yeah. Wait, into the dying sun,
or into the dying universe. It was the final episode of the first.
Okay,
one he was
yeah.
in, which is a bad place to start.
It was, but it was me who showed it to you because that's an amazing episode. That would have been the end of season 5. Big Bang 2, I think, is the episode title.
Yeah, and he restores all of time and space in the one go.
Mm-hmm.
That I think that even as an introductory one, I thought that was brilliant because you've got him going back and talking to himself and rearranging things inside the episode. You know, actively just manipulating. He knows he's ripping everything's ripped apart anyway, so he doesn't care about ripping anymore. So he's just actively like shoving his hand everywhere and just pulling it all together to make the proper outcome happen. And then you're like, it's not going to happen, and then it does because of things you haven't seen him do.
Right. And that is really brilliant. So that is one of my favorite episodes. Kate, you ready for the question number 8?
Well, ready has never been part of this equation, so I feel as though I'll say yes, just to play safe.
Good answer. What is your favorite alien species?
Well,
there's at least 3 aliens out there. Like types of aliens that they use in fiction. There might be a 4th. I don't know. I don't really read that. Well, wait, hold on. No, yeah, there's millions. Take your pick. Take your pick.
Take your pick. I like Daleks.
Daleks? What do you like about them?
I like just what they have an interesting character curve.
Kudos to you, by the way, for properly referencing the Daleks as aliens and not robots.
Mm-hmm. They've got robot shells. I mean, but they're not robots. I guess I like how, well, if you look at the guys with the ruffled heads from Star Trek, people are gonna hate me for forgetting this. Klingons, yes. Klingons, they're pretty, in the early seasons, after a certain point they become static, right? And you just expect them to do certain things. Right?
Okay.
So the Daleks have that coming. They have that feeling of just being expected to do certain things, but they still make them deviate from that.
Interesting.
So, I don't know. That's not really my favorite alien species, but I haven't thought about it, and I had no concise answer, so I shot whatever was in my mug out of my face.
And that's how improv works.
Yes.
The trick is to have good ammunition loaded in the barrel. So, on to our final question. Question number 7. Are you ready?
Well, it came with, well, yes.
Part of improv is competence, by the way.
Yes.
So, question number 7. What is your favorite magic system?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. I am behind the Beyonders magic system.
Beyonders magic system.
Have you read Beyonders?
I have not read Beyonders.
Oh, okay. So it's based on the idea that there's an old language that the sorcerers use,
okay,
called Dming, and it's the language of the universe. Everything understands it.
Okay.
But when you start to speak it in a commanding way, you have to have the will force behind it. If you don't have enough will to assert your command, then you can kill you. Whereas most wizards go through suggestion. They suggest and they find things. They make the stuff around them want it. But this creates for Brandon Mull is able to make his completely own non-human race system that's still familiar, but is completely his own, absolutely to the microscopics. So since these wizards are these people with this massive will who can just use this language to suggest how and command matter to do certain things.
Okay.
You have a race where what they do is when they get to prime age, they kill the person because they have these little seeds growing in the back of their head. And when you take that seed out of a dead one and plant it, it grows to be the exact person as they were when they first died, and as a plant and a cocoon, but they have all their memories.
Okay.
And so they're like elves. You've got these ancient race with lots of wisdom, who are really smart, who don't die, but they're not. But they're so uniquely they're Brandon Mull's. You can't say that you can draw parallels between them and elves, but they're definitely his. And so I just love the system that he put down because it was unique, and it was able to help him create a completely unique world.
Okay. how chaotic is that world?
Oh, well.
Like, for example, just something that I was randomly thinking of. One of the things that a lot of authors don't necessarily worry about and just kind of throw some hand wavy at if they want it for a character is crossbreeding. For example, in Star Trek, they occasionally you get like someone who's half Klingon, half human.
Yeah. Or
like Spock, who is like 1/8 human, I think. No.
I thought he was half.
No, he's half. He's half.
Yeah.
And so you get all these, and technically, under how science is supposed to work, that shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
And they were just kind of doing it, and they were like, okay, we'll throw some fancy words at it later. But, in the type of world that you're saying, where it's just like, what you can imagine and what you can say and what you can do, would it be conceivable into that magic universe to allow, creation of mythical creatures through crossbreeding?
He doesn't crossbreed.
Well, yeah,
but,
it was just a random thought that came to me.
As far as how chaotic the world is,
how chaotic is the magic? Like does the universe fight back when the world is trying to be changed?
No, there's not that element to it. The story comes in where you've got this emperor. I can't even remember his name, but he was an apprentice, like not even a fully trained wizard. But there's a war going on, and a bunch of the other wizards got killed, and so he stabbed some people in the back, and now he's the only person left who knows this language. And he's not going to teach it to anyone because, well, he killed his master. He doesn't want to be killed either.
Uh-huh.
And so he's got the potential to live for thousands of years as this emperor who can completely decimate any idea of freedom that these people have. And so what they're doing is they're going in and they... Part of the magic system is of the culture of these wizards is when they train an apprentice, they make a keyword. They change the person's body, so if this keyword is spoken in front of this person, they're destroyed. So if the apprentice ever tries to stab in the back, and he's got enough time to speak this word, he's just obliterated and done. And so the beginning of the series, the first 2 books, is them collecting this keyword. And they have to do that, and spoiler alert, do you mind if I spoil?
I don't care.
They get the keyword, and they speak it in front of him.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. It's not his keyword. He's put this out there to watch people look for it, and then when he finds out whose biggest enemies are, the most successful people, he then offers them the chance to go to this palace where it's just incredible luxury, whatever, softens him up, makes him, he doesn't have to worry about him. And so he has this pursuit that's useless against him, where he can get all of his enemies that could actually threaten him to go out and do this. And so he manages to get the keyword, says it, realizes it's not working, and then gets sent back to our world. The guys from our world. That's why he's called Beyonders, because he's...
Okay.
But then he has to go back and find a way to kill the emperor. And see, when I was talking about how Brandon Mold just creates a bigger challenge, you think getting each of these like syllables, because you can't speak it all together because you forget it, so they have to get individual syllables before they can speak it.
Okay.
And so each of these challenges they go to do, every time it's just something that you believe that you really should not be able to do this. Then all of it's for naught, and there's no way in the world to destroy this emperor, and he still has to figure it out. And then he does in the last book.
Mm-hmm.
And so magic system, epic, yes, it was really cool. Applied in a really cool way, and it helped the story. Like it was a driving principle behind it, definitely.
Cool. Well, it's definitely a good answer. If you have any questions for us on our podcast, please leave them down in the comments below or send me an email at podcast@mad-mat.com. Include podcast in the title so I don't accidentally delete it or think it is spam or stuff like that. There's links to some of the stuff we talked about down below, and if there's not to a particular thing, complain about it, and I will fix it. I think that's about it for wrapping up stuff. Next time, I think I had this idea for a book swap challenge thing, and I think we'll talk about that next time, but that won't be for another week or 2. So please send us questions that you want us to talk about, and until then, I'm Nut WandCow.
I'm Aaron.
I'm Jerusha.
Thank you guys for listening. Stay online. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Peace out.